Welcome to CNN Tonight. I'm Jake Tapper in Washington. And tonight, Make America Great Again. Again? We're just 4 days away from the all-important midterm elections, and with Republicans optimistic that they're going to be able to flip both the House of Representatives and the Senate, Donald Trump is preparing to ride that wave right into a 2024 announcement. Sources tell CNN that top aides to the former president are gearing up for a possible campaign launch around the third week of November, something Trump himself hinted on the campaign trail again last night.
Now, in order to make our country successful and safe and glorious, I will very probably do it again, okay?
Those same sources, however, say that Trump's announcement could be delayed if Republicans do not do as well as he hopes, and perhaps an announcement could come earlier if there's a Republican tsunami next week. I mean, who knows? It's Donald Trump. And there are some major headlines today that could have an impact on what happens Tuesday, starting with a stronger than expected jobs report released today. 261,000 Americans hired in October. In a normal campaign year, that would be welcome news for the White House and Democrats running across the country. But this is not a normal year, and the economic picture is much more complicated and, in the view of most Americans, pretty damn dismal. President Biden's labor secretary today spoke of the dilemma facing Democrats.
At the end of the day, no matter how many jobs that I can get in front of this camera and tell you how we've added and how great they are, people are still feeling the struggle at the kitchen table.
The biggest economic challenge at the moment seems to be inflation. And yes, we also saw today Americans' wages are rising, but they're not keeping up with the cost of nearly everything else that is soaring. That, we heard this week, remains the biggest concern of the chairman of the Federal Reserve.
Without price stability, the economy does not work for anyone.
The trick is the Fed's response to ease inflation was to raise interest rates again, another 3/4 of a point, which it did on Wednesday. And while we all want prices to go down, that move makes acts like buying a car or a house or just trying to use a credit card more expensive. And it also makes it harder for Democrats to win at the ballot box in a number of key races. Take a trip with me across the country as we visit some of those races. Let's start in my home Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, where Oprah is weighing in, endorsing Democrat John Fetterman over the man she turned into a household name.
If I lived in Pennsylvania, I would have already cast my vote for John Fetterman for many reasons.
Fetterman's opponent, Republican candidate Mehmet Oz, skyrocketed to fame, of course, because of his recurring segments on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and that led him to his own syndicated show, which was co-produced by Oprah.
Sometimes these things come alive. Sort of sleepy here. Now these can grow. Can you hold that, please?
No, I'm not.
Just a little bit. Just get a little bit there.
On to the dairy state now, and another candidate Oprah endorsed for the Senate, and that, of course, is Wisconsin's Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes. This afternoon, Barnes took on his opponent, Republican Senator Ron Johnson, after Johnson would not outright, specifically, without equivocation, commit to accepting the election results next week.
A person who would go so far as to say, well, yeah, I didn't get what I wanted, so it can't be right. You know, it's very arrogant. It's very arrogant. It's the height of arrogance. But that's who he's always been. That's who he'll continue to be.
And across the country in Arizona, more than 1.2 million early ballots have already been cast. Nowhere in the United States has the struggle between election liars and those who reside here on planet Earth played out in more vivid detail than in Arizona, where 3 of the key Republican candidates for governor, for Senate, and for Secretary of State of Arizona all traffic in Donald Trump's lies about the 2020 election and invented conspiratorial claims of widespread fraud that never happened. And election liars in Arizona, they're not just on the ballot, they're also at the ballot boxes. This week, a federal judge in the Grand Canyon state blocked a right-wing group from patrolling ballot drop boxes. Voters say members of what's called Clean Elections USA accused them, these voters, of voter fraud while openly carrying guns and wearing body armor and masks and recording the voters.
Yeah, I covered my place because they're taking pictures and all that stuff. I mean, this is what we've come to in America, huh? These guys call themselves patriots? Really? The guy standing over there, he's got his face covered, and he's armed. What's that tell you? They don't want you to vote.
The Justice Department says the allegations, quote, raise serious concerns of voter intimidation, unquote, and likely violate the Federal Voting Rights Act. Central, of course, to this is the lie-filled propaganda film 2,000 Mules we've told you about, a film propaganda claiming with zero evidence that drop boxes were the scenes of mass voter fraud in 2020. Spoiler alert, they weren't. But the organizer of the group behind this campaign went on Steve Bannon's show and explained to millions of listeners how that propaganda film full of lies and nonsense inspired this ballot watching movement.
Really what inspired me was the idea of 2,000 Mules. So I just threw it out on Truth Social one day and said, hey, we're supposed to be their boss, but they're stealing it. So let's get out there, shifts of, maybe 2-3 hours, 10 people at a time, and just stand around them. Keep those mules from, wanting to come up to the boxes. And it was just a simple thought, and it just took off.
A simple thought is accurate. So, sure, the judge's order now makes it illegal to stalk Arizona ballot boxes and voters, but the misinformation driving all of this, that continues to stalk all corners of American democracy. Here's the Republican outgoing Speaker of the Arizona House, Rusty Bowers, a conservative Republican, talking about his fears about the anti-democracy candidates and efforts in his state.
I call it the possibility of going back into the dark ages in Arizona, which would be a sad time. And I said, welcome to fascism.
These lies, they're the centerpiece of many MAGA candidates running in battleground states such as Arizona, and a real concern for any American who wants all legal votes counted. We saw more of the impact of misinformation 1 week ago today, after a deranged man set out to harm House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, breaking into her house and violently beating her husband with a hammer. President Biden addressed this general threat in a primetime speech this week, and once again, he warned the American people not to take democracy for granted.
This intimidation, this violence against Democrats, Republicans, and nonpartisan officials just doing their jobs are the consequence of lies told for power and profit. We have to confront those lies with the truth. The very future of our nation depends on it.
But can people hear this warning amidst the cacophony of economic hard times? Because we know that midterm voters' top concern, according to polls, is not the future of democracy. It is the current state of the economy, which is understandable given the very real financial struggles folks are facing, as opposed to theoretical limitations of freedom to vote in the future. Today, I asked a Democratic pollster how Democrats, he thinks, will fare in the midterm elections, what he's seeing out there. He responded simply with this screen grab, the image of a Category 4 hurricane making landfall. Not a good forecast for Democrats. Though again, these are just polls and predictions and prognostications. At the end of the day, it's all up to you.